Should I start, sir?
Wait, sir, wait. The live is
Okay, sir.
starting. Yes, Varsha, go ahead.
A warm welcome to everyone present here. I am Varsha from second year CACD. I'm glad in hosting this wonderful webinar. Without no delay, I would like to call Ms. Ayushi from second year CAC department to welcome us all.
Good evening to one and all present here for today's webinar on scope of CSC in R&D industries. On this auspicious occasion, myself, Ayushi, as a representative of CSC department of PSNA College of Engineering and Technology, would like to express my gratitude to everyone for selecting me to welcome you all for this blessed event. I would like to invite the gathering. Firstly, I would like to invite our resource person, Mr. Bubala Krishnan, Senior Engineer of Mercedes-Benz Research and Development India Private Limited. I welcome you, sir. I need to thank our chairperson,
Thank you.
Ms. K. Dhanlakshmi ma'am, and pro-chairman, Mr. R.S.K. Raghuram sir, and our principal, Dr. D. Vasudevan sir, for arranging this great opportunity. And I must mention our deep sense of invitation to our beloved HOD, Dr. D. Shanti ma'am, and our coordinator, Dr. R. Karthikeyan sir, who have organized this webinar for students' benefit. I extend my hearty welcome to our staff members. Lastly, I record my hearty greetings to all the students, the learners to the gathering. Once again, I welcome you all to this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayushi. Next, I would like to call Dr. R. Karthikeyan, Webinar Coordinator, Professor from CSE Department, to deliver his address. Sir, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Varsha. So by joining with Ayushi, so once again I welcome Mr. Bubalakrishnan,
Thank you, sir.
2009 batch CSE alumnus from PSNA College of Engineering and Technology. So currently he is working as a tech lead. So recently he got promotion, I think. He's a tech lead in Mercedes-Benz Research and Development India Private Limited. So I welcome Bubalakrishnan.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thanks,
Thank
all of
you.
you.
Thank you for your time. Okay. So, as Ayushi and Varsha, they told this is actually a webinar. Okay. So, my dear students, during this lockdown period, actually, we have initiated these kinds of online talk in the form of webinar. But with the help of our alumni support, so we started the alumni talk series from June 2020 onwards. From the June 2020 onwards, they have started this alumni talk series. This is, if I am right, this is the 16th alumni talk. This is the 16th alumni talk. Really, I wish to record my sincere thanks to all our alumni of CS department, passed in different batches, because even though they are busy with their work schedule, they are accepting our invitation. They are joining in this alumni talk series. Even some of the alumni, such as Mr. Bubalakrishnan, so they have voluntarily approached me. They are interested to address the juniors. So because why I'm saying this is alumni are one of the important stakeholder of any institution. And in addition to that, alumni are one of the strongest pillar for any institutional development. So really, in this particular moment, I wish to convey our PSNA management, our principal, our head of the department are very much supportive to organize these kinds of alumni talk series. Whenever we are saying, if some of our alumni are coming to the online to talk with the students, immediately they approved, okay? Because our management is very keen on alumni interaction. So now in this particular moment, I am putting the request, not only Bubalakrishnan, to all our alumni who participated in our alumni talk series and who are going to participate in the alumni talk series. You are all invited to our department to to our college because the COVID-19 pandemic is slightly getting reduced. So we hope in the year 2022, there is no COVID. If there is no COVID, so we are inviting all our alumni to our department, to our college, to interact with your juniors. This is my humble request to Bhupalakrishnan, because who is presently available in this alumni talk series. We are inviting you, Mr. Bhupalakrishnan.
Sure, sir. Thank you very much for the invitation. I would like to see the college again.
Yes, okay. Thank you. So, and one more request or suggestion towards my dear youngsters or the young and dynamic, energetic students. So, if you are attending these kinds of alumni talk, definitely you will be getting some useful insights about that particular topic. Okay. So, why we are organizing these kinds of alumni talk series is instead of giving certain useful information or some suggestions or tips from the faculty side or from the your peer group, okay, we are inviting the alumni. The alumni are more experts in the industry side. So if they are sharing some contents, definitely it is very useful to you. So today the topic is very interesting one. So once I saw his profile in LinkedIn, I asked Ms. Bhupalakrishnan, you are CSE department, you are working in Mercedes-Benz, okay? But he told me that, yes, sir, there are a lot of scope for CSE in research and development. So that immediately we planned to have the session for our present students. So definitely out of this today's alumni talk, the present students, you will be getting the useful insights towards the R&D industry. Not only in R&D industry, I hope Mr. Bhupalakrishnan will address the students of the present years, how to get ready for the employment. In this particular moment, I wish to share a happiest thing to Mr. Bhupalakrishnan. Our present 2022 batch students, they received around 195 offers totally. Totally 195 offers, around 100 students uniquely they got placed. Even in this pandemic scenario, through online mode of recruitment. Audience, you please mute yourself. Mohan Ram, you please mute yourself. So, our students achieved 195 offers and 100 unique offers. So, still the interview is going on. So that if the alumni, you are coming and addressing our students, so definitely they will get inspired by seeing you. Definitely we will be getting the more offers in the forthcoming recruitment process. Even the second years and third years also available in this meeting. So definitely this alumni talk will be the great inspiration to them. So with these few words, so thank you one and all for joining in this alumni talk. I used to convey one thing. Due to some autonomous meeting purpose, our head of the department is not able to join in the meeting today. So once the meeting is over, maybe madam will join. This is maybe the information to Ms. Bhupalakrishnan, because madam is really interested to interact with you. But tomorrow we are having one autonomous committee visit, so that madam is available in the meeting. She may join later. Otherwise, I will inform her. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bhupalakrishnan. Over to Arsha.
Thank you so much, sir. Today, we have our reverend resource person, Mr. Bhupalakrishnan, a tech lead at Mercedes-Benz Research and Development India Private Limited, to share our knowledge with us. Let us know a glimpse of her. Ms. Priyadarshini from Second Year CSE Department will be helping me in welcoming our Honorable Chief Guest by introducing her. Handing over to Priyadarshini.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Our alumni, Mr. Bhupalakrishnan, holds his degree in Computer Science and Engineering at PSNA College of Engineering and Technology of batch 2005 to 2009. He has been working as a software engineer since January 2010 till now in various product-based organizations like Honeywell, Robert Bosch, Tata Elxsi, and as a result of hard work and effort, he grabbed the position of tech lead in Mercedes-Benz. At present, he is working as domain architect who has to define the features of the infotainment system and as well as working on interface layers between several software layers, mainly between UI and middleware application in Mercedes-Benz Research and Development India Private Limited. We are so proud to invite him for sharing
Hello,
about his scope of computer science and engineering in research and development industries. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyadarshini, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Priyadashini. I am pleased to know about our resource person and I cannot wait to learn from them. Mr. Bhupalakrishnan sir, it's our pleasure to have you here. We are awaiting to gain knowledge from you. Sir, the stage is all yours.
So, yeah, thanks. First of all, thank you. First, I would like to thank Mr. Karthikeyan sir. So he immediately invited me for this talk. So thanks for that, and I would also like to connect to the college again.
Thank you, Bhupalakrishnan, for your time.
Yeah, sir. Thank you, and thanks all of you because you're spending your time actually with me, hoping that you'd get some information which is useful to you, and I hope I'll try to give that usefulness to you. Yeah, and thanks to the college and our department. Yeah, so maybe we can start the topic. So the topic today, like scope of CSE in R&D industries, right? So maybe I would like to share my screen. So are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Bhupalakrishnan, your screen is visible, but you press F5. Yes, okay,
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So scope of CSE in R&D industry. So let us try to understand what is R&D. Right. So you all know it's research and development, but what they do differently when we compare to other organizations which are non-R&D. It is all about innovate and introducing something new features or something new, some new products or improvement or significant improvement on the existing products. Okay. For example, say today some car. I'll talk based on my industry experience. Like say today Mercedes-Benz S-Class is there. S-Class is out, and so in the next quarter they would like to add some more features to the existing S-Class in some way. Maybe it could be it could be some extra comfort to the driver and passengers who are all using S-Class, or it could be some technological update or a next step in the head unit system. Here I'll tell you what is head unit system is. So we call head unit system that is nothing but a computer which is sitting in the car, and via that we can interact to the car as well to the car and as well as to the outside vehicles, and also we can play various you can listen to the music and you can use a lot of medias. So it is not just a small computer. It's not just a MP3 player. We have in we had in our Maruti maybe a decade ago. Okay, so now see, decade ago it is just a small MP3 player, but now it is like a more sophisticated computer system with a lot of features, with the video player and with the smartphone integration and with connectivity and with communication established to other external cars and some road, maybe some safety system which helps the driver to drive safely. I'll talk about it later. So a lot of features have been adapted to this system, head-end system. So likewise, so this is what this is the outcome of the research and development only. So what they do is like so they are actually analyzing the current market trend, and they are trying to identify. So if they are trying to identify two things, one is the problem and another one is the something new, which will add really value to the product and as well as value to the users. Okay, so this is what the two different things they trying to identify, and so as a result, so there is a certain and significant improvement on the product, existing product, or sometimes it might be a new product as well. So this is what our research and development is research and development is. Okay, so not just my organization, even a lot of organizations are doing research on their own domain. Okay, so which helps them to sustain in the market. So they are, see, there are a lot of competitors now. Say if you take Apple phone now, OnePlus has come up. So OnePlus is actually ruling the Android world. I would say it is very good. So now Apple wants to sustain, and so they changed the design of the old iPhone. Now the design is a little better. So it is nothing but doing some research and analyzing the market trend, and applying the latest technologies, applying the right technologies. So this is what R&D is about. Okay. So you guys can stop me in between if you have any questions. You can let me know if you have any questions. Okay. Sorry for the background noise. Yeah. So any queries you have now? Okay, I will take it as no. Okay. So what is the difference? So what is actually distinguishing from other organizations? So the distinguish is like so R&D organizations. So not just R&D. If you take any product organization, they always deliver the product to the end user. End user, say in case of a mobile, so end user is us, people or the citizens of the particular country, right? But if you take non-R&D organizations, like some services company, you can say maybe TCS, HCL, Wipro, they're all good. They're all doing really very well. But actually, they don't deliver the product to the end users. They deliver the product to the clients or customers from whom they were outsourced to complete the product. So finally, what is happening is that so in the complete product, the whole product set, you will have a lot of opportunities to innovate, to do something new, to try something new. But in the already well-defined product or well-defined work, when it is given to or when it is outsourced to the services company, then they have some limitations on the innovation side or improvement side. Okay, so they just do they just do what is written on the paper of the contract. So it is they would say like I would need. I would need a software which has this level of performance. So it should react, or it should respond within milliseconds, and always it should be available. And there should not be case like the software application is unavailable to the user. So you need to maintain some backup. So the backup is like it's like a fault detection and recovery mechanism which we follow in software application. So likewise they give the constraints, and they also enforce. So it should follow the microservices architecture, or it should be developed using the maybe serverless architecture. Something like that, they would enforce the rules. So once these rules are enforced, so services company, they will be just following it. Okay, there will be changes in the design, but it'll be a little bit in the size. It will not be that much bigger, and they will not have a bigger opportunity to innovate. So this is the difference between R&D or product organizations and services company. Okay, so hope you understand. Hope you understood this difference. Is there any question? Okay, I will take it as no. So some innovation stories I would like to share with you, so to better understand the R&D companies. So when I started my career with Honeywell, so Honeywell is like it's not just in one industry. So it also has a footprint in aerospace industry, and it has footprint in automation industry. Okay, so it is both. It is mix of some, what to say, some industrial culture. Okay, but Honeywell was leading the aerospace industry. Even now it is leading, but there are some significant competitors came up now. But still it is holding, I think, 50% of the market with Honeywell. Maybe other 50% is splitted into other aerospace competitors. So how it was surviving? When I was working on working in Honeywell, they innovated some new product that is called NGFMS. That is nothing but next generation flight management systems. So what it does is that, so I'll tell about flight management systems first. So flight management system is a software which is running on the aircrafts. Okay, which is running on the aircrafts, in the sense that it could be a passenger flight, it could be a defense aircraft, it could be a business jet, anything. Okay, so this particular the software is running on the aircraft, and which helps the pilot to drive to fly the aircraft better with a lot of guidance. It is not just driving a car. It has so pilot needs a specific special and unique skill to fly the aircraft, right? So it gives a lot of information. Even the existing flight management system also does that. But what NGFMS is doing it, so it is actually, they come up with some common framework. On top of that common framework, they splitted the domain-specific layers. When I say domain-specific layers, say for example, in a software, there would be a module which handles the I/O, and which another module which might talk to air traffic controller, another module which might maybe in touch with UI always, and maybe another module which should monitor the complete aircraft signals, the control system, right? So what is the current state of the aircraft? Is it really doing well? Maybe health monitoring in the sense, so no fault is happening in the aircraft control systems. So things like that. Such things would be. So it is splitted as a domain. So which means IO module is a separate domain, and say ATC module is a separate domain. Things like that. Okay. So this actually made their product to fit for all types of aircrafts. So before that, actually, what the industry was doing is that they were just they were trying to create a software for every specific type of aircraft. So if a business jet, then the software is specific to that, and the same software as it is cannot be used in the passenger flight. Maybe a little modification is always okay, but there will be a significant modification, and it needs a lot of investment in money and also in terms of efforts. It is actually really it is not possible to achieve any major changes, and also it was not possible to innovate, because always we need to spend the time in just modifying the softwares, right, with specific to aircraft. So they came up with this particular approach, and this was actually really went well, and this was the successful project for Honeywell. So now it is actually running in a lot of aircrafts like Embraer, and Boeing has actually incorporated this NGFMS in I think 747 dash 8, I think. So this is what innovation is. So it is not just doing the same thing again and again. It is doing something new, and trying out something, experimenting the things and trying something new. You might so there are chances for you to fail in this trial, but so to avoid the failure, we should be technical enough, and we should be well enough in analyzing the market and analyzing the technologies, and how feasible it is with the what to say, with affordable cost investment, something things like that. So anyway, the bigger organizations are doing it very well. So hopefully there would not be much failure. Yeah, but even Honeywell had some pitfalls on some of the innovative products which didn't go well. But anyway, it actually catched up later with this kind of drastic improvement in the flight management system softwares. So this is the innovation story. When I went stepped into Honeywell, I had a boat, and I was also part of this infamous product development, product life cycle, not exactly development. Okay. So this is one example I would like to give you. So okay, it is say, if maybe you guys can say to me like, okay, it is a complete product which maybe organization can think of, but what at individual level? Say I wanted to do some improvements, or I wanted to try innovating new. So in the case, what can I do? So if you ask me, so I have another example here. See, it is EGPWS. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So there is already there is an existing module actually in flight management systems, which also monitors some hindrance. But what EGPWS? This is enhanced ground proximity warning system. This is the idea or patent filed by a senior colleague who was working in Honeywell, and that really added value to the existing flight management system. So what it does is that it just used to store the coordinates of any mountain, a small mountain, as a log or knoll, small mountain, or some any say watery areas. They say it's a river or it's a small pond or something. So those things and all, it will try to capture the coordinates XYZ, and it will store it in the database. And so that information will be fed to the display, the multifunctional display, the cockpit display. So that will be useful to the pilot when he's actually flying through the particular route. So all this information about that specific route would be captured and would be collected and would be given to the pilot actually. So it is it was actually very much helpful to the pilot to avoid the accidents. So, and also it will give the warnings actually. So say for example, pilot is trying to land actually, maybe by somehow the visibility is not clear, maybe due to the weather or something. So the pilot might not be able to see the ground properly. So maybe he's trying to land at the wrong place, maybe where the hindrance is there. So that time it will alert the pilot that there is a small mountain, so we should not be landing here, and it will also give the alternative coordinate where you can land. So things like that. So this is the a small idea, just storing the coordinates in the database and use this information later. This is the idea by a senior colleague. So we all also can innovate. We all also can improve our existing system, which is already in the work. Okay. So this is so inspiring innovation story for me at the time. So hopefully it will be inspiring to you as well. So any questions so far? You have any questions? Hello? Okay. Anybody has any question? Okay, I'll take it now, then I'll go forward. So now, when it so I'll come to some of the innovation stories in automotive industry. So automotive industry, we call that is nothing but a car actually. This car tracks, buses, all that. So that we call it as automotive industry. So what is the role for a software engineer or a developer in automotive industry? Is there something for us? Yes, it is, of course. That is nothing but I talked about head unit some time back. So that head unit is nothing but a computer system which is running on the car. So developing that software. So developing that software is scope actually we have there. So it is not just a single or a small, what to say, small software where we can run our library management system, just search the books. It is not just like that. It is more than that. So we need to achieve this company. So companies are eager to choose. Companies are eager to in choosing the motherboards, the processors, which processor would be perfect fit for them, and which type of operating system they can run. So anyway, they need some real-time operating system, because it deals with a little bit of safety, and also some features and extra comfort to the drivers and the passengers, right? So it is whenever there is a safety or some real-time interaction, then we all we all prefer the real-time operating system rather than using the some standard Unix, Linux, or Windows. Okay, so real-time operating system again, so built on here. Unix kernel. So it is open source. There are a lot of open source real-time operating systems are available. So on top of that, I'm just trying to give you an overview about the head unit. So there is operating system, and on top of that, there are some platform layers. You know what is platform layer? Platform layer is like you might be knowing it a little bit already. Threads handling, or some memory allocation, or some resource allocation. The resource could be IO, or resource could be some file, or resource could be a database, or something like this. Okay, this is a platform layer, and on top of that, so different individual applications, like phone module. You might be phone module would be required to make a call to your colleague, or anybody in the phone, anybody in the world, or and then maybe SMS module, and you maybe would like to listen to the music, so there is a media player. So something like this, a lot of applications would be running on top of the platform layer, and on top of that, UI layer will be there. UI is nothing but user interface layer, which is the display, and through which user can interact with the system. And nowadays, not just the UI is there, there is also another interaction layer for the user, that is nothing but a speech. So speech recognition is there. You don't have to actually, so while driving the car, you don't have to look at the head unit system and touch something, and by touching it, you don't have to interact. So while driving the car, your concentration should not be deviated, so that you will drive safely. So that is the reason they brought in this speech. Actually, you just have to do one press on your steering wheel, so that the speech recognition software would be activated, and through that you can interact with the head unit system, like make a call to my friend, or navigate to this particular hotel, or navigate to this particular college, something like that you can say, and it will help you on that. So this is this is the overview about the head unit system. And the thing I told you about the speech recognition, that is an example of innovation in the head unit system of automotive cars. Okay, and not just that. So nowadays, IoT managed car head unit is also there. What is that IoT managed car head unit? It is nothing. IoT, right? You can control the smart home appliances like a fridge, the refrigerator, and the washing machine, anything via through your mobile, maybe being not at our home. So you may be in some other place, but you forgot to switch off the AC or something, and you wanted to switch off now. Yeah, you can do it through that app, which is working on the IoT platform. So that is Internet of Things. You know it, right? So there are some protocols. So like the major one is IoT and IoTVT and all join. So use of those applications, those more latest technologies also available in car head unit. Via that, you can just control the car. Like say you are rushing to the office, you are getting ready, but you wanted to open the door, you wanted to bring up the head unit system. You can do it via the app which is installed on the phone. So every vendor or every car manufacturer does that. Even BMW has it, Volkswagen has it. So this is also an innovation. This was not there maybe 5 to 6 years ago. It was not there, I guess, and recently it has been implemented. So it is a kind of innovation. It is an example of innovation. And there is another fantastic feature is called CorpX. This is like vehicle to vehicle communication. It will say that say some rash somebody is driving very rash and they are approaching our car, and yeah, they might hit us. So it will warn the driver. Actually, it warns the driver, and so and so car it is approaching. Maybe it will approach in some 1 or 2 minutes. So be ready, or park aside, like that. Some instructions would be there. Okay, so this is how this is another technology we have it in automotive industry. This is also an innovation. It was not there a decade ago. Now it has been implemented, and this is an example of innovation. And smartphone integration, media. So nowadays we cannot be there without our smartphones, right? Even a small kid also wanted to play with the smartphones, right? So this is an example. You can integrate your smartphone into your head unit. So there are technologies provided by Android phone makers and Apple phone maker. So that is CarPlay is by Apple, and Android Auto is by Google. That is Android. So this is the technology through which any system can interact with the phone, your smartphone. So so once it is once the session is established through this technology with your smartphone, then your smartphone is actually, what to say, it is you can say mirrored in your head unit. So then actually you can use the speech recognition to interact with this interact with the smartphone, or you just can use the touch screen of the head unit to interact with the smartphone. You don't have to touch your phone at all. Even while driving the car, actually, if you're touching the phone or if you're playing with the phone, then there might be a risk actually in for accidents or life loss or something. So this is the reason. This is the fire actually, which actually brought this feature into the head unit systems. Likewise, a lot of things are there. Another important feature, a small thing. It's in a small improvement. It's not a very big feature, but it's actually really useful. It's called a heads-up display. We say it's a heads-up display. A heads-up display in the sense you don't have to. So when you have somebody in the car, it's okay, but you just driving alone. Say you cannot look every time you are head unit, right? So head unit is little down, and you have to look like this so that things are visible on the road. So what they do, they create a smart screen kind of thing on the windshield. Okay, so that will have so in that actually some important information and very minimal information which are really useful to you would be displayed there. So like speed, in which speed you are going, and maybe some navigation information, some navigation guidance. When I say guidance, turn left, turn right, something like that. So and some cruise control settings, like if you put the speed on this one and continue this speed until I say something like that. So short of such things are also nowadays incorporated, and that is all these are example of an innovation actually. So these are all some innovation stories for you. How so R&D organizations are doing or developing their product. So it is not just a single so small it's a how to say normal computer or a normal software. It is not like some business application we are writing, some banking system. It is not like that. Even in banking system also nowadays there are so many improvements in terms of security and faster session, something like that, right? So everywhere, innovation is everywhere. Every product company, in order to sustain in the industry, they wanted to something new, and they wanted to what is the safeguard their product from the security attacks, and make it available 100%. We feel like if Gmail is not there or Google is not there for 1 hour, we'll feel like frustrated, right? So things like that would be avoided with these innovation culture and all. Okay, so this is just some information for you. This is the one I was talking about, next generation flight management systems. I cannot maximize it somehow, but this column is actually representing this NGFMS, and this column is actually features. It has a lot of features. I would read a few. One is VNAV, that is VNAV in the sense vertical navigation temperature. That is one thing, and en route holding a procedure. En route in the sense planning your current route, and starting the start flying on that particular route, that is en routing. So kinds of these kind of features actually. So if you look at the other other flight management system softwares, so not all the features are part of it, you see. So but NGFMS has got all these features inbuilt into it. So this is the advantage of the better architecture, and it is the outcome of innovation. And there are a lot of aircraft manufacturers like Boeing, 747, and see a particular model. If you wanted to see 747 dash 8 and dash 4, and Embraer is a business jet aircraft manufacturer. And Dassault you might be knowing nowadays. You are hearing Rafael and all, so you might be knowing Dassault. And Gulfstream, Embraer, all these are all leading aircraft manufacturing companies, and they're all actually incorporating the NGFMS, and they're welcoming the NGFMS because of the innovation work what they have done. Okay, and now it's another just a picture of our Mercedes-Benz heads-up display. You can see this red circle inside this. See, this is actually navigation information. So you need to go straight and take a roundabout and then take left. So this is what it says, and it is 600 meters apart, and it displays the speed also, and it displays the street name. It is Sonnenbergstrasse, which is in German. It's a street name. So this is an example of heads-up display. So these are all some innovation stories for you, and this is just a roadmap of Mercedes innovation. Some small. It's not a list of complete innovation innovative products they have done, but a list of very few innovative products, innovative features of the head-end system. Telematics, pre-safe. Pre-safe is a groundbreaking system, anti-braking system, and attention assist. Okay, and Cortex we have talked about, and now they are working on EV cars, that is electric cars, and also autonomous. They are working on autonomous in the sense autonomous driving cars. So driver is not required, manless driver, manless car. Humanless driving car. This is what the achievement. This is what they're trying to do. Not just Mercedes, everybody, even Tesla is trying to do. The Tesla has already done it, and Tesla. If you Tesla's a lot of innovative products. It is Tesla is always top on the innovation section, and Elon Musk, he is actually heading Tesla. And so they have done it lot, but still improving. They are improving because they wanted to use it in the public. Then they have to do a lot of certifications and all, and they have to do a lot of safety testing. So it might take some time to reach us. Yeah. And so till now we have seen about R&D and some innovation stories. Hope it is useful to you, and you guys got something. So, any questions so far?
Bhupalakrishnan,
Yes, sir.
so I'm having one question.
Yes, sir.
So because your company is working on R&D,
Yes, sir.
whether all the R&D works are doing by yourselves, or are you collaborating with some other organizations?
Collaboration is there, sir. Collaboration is there.
Collaboration in the sense only in industry, or any other well-known universities or any other research institute are you collaborating?
Only in industry.
Only in industries.
Industry, yes, sir.
Okay.
But some other companies like Ford and all, they have done. They have collaborated with universities also. That is in US. I
US.
know one case. Yeah, Ford. So research scholars, research students who are studying in Atlanta University, they developed a pilot project of smartphone integration for Ford head unit. That is at the time of 2015.
2015.
So
Okay.
yeah, at the time of 2015, yeah, it happened. But
Suppose,
Mercedes, no,
yes,
yeah.
I suppose if any of the universities or any of the research institute they are approaching you
Yes, sir.
to collaborate with any one of the research area,
Yes, sir.
whether your company will be permitting us?
Might be. I need to check with them. I'm
Okay,
not
okay,
sure on that part
okay,
actually.
okay, Bhupalakrishnan. Thank you, thank you.
Yes. So till now, going good. Just want to understand. No, if
Bhupalakrishnan,
students. Yeah.
actually, the final year students are attending in the lab itself because they are just watching your presentations on the screen.
Oh, okay.
Second years and third years who are available in home, they are attending.
Okay, sir. Okay.
You can proceed, Bhupalakrishnan.
Okay,
You
fine.
can proceed.
Okay. So now, working culture. So working culture. Why we need to talk about working culture? So it would be useful to share to prepare yourself for to work in R&D organizations. Okay, not any product organization or any R&D organization. We should be knowing the working culture, right? So in say a services company or any companies like TCS or HCL, you would be knowing it. Okay, some testing project will be there, some development project will be there, some quality management project will be there, things like that. Okay, but in R&D also the same thing. But in a different perspective. What is the different? What is the difference actually? It is like these companies do they set the goals for the employee. So even every organization is setting the goals for each and every employee, but these goals are different from organization to organization. But in case of R&D, any R&D company, they set innovation or some improvement as a goal for each and every employee. So it is not like it is not extra thing for your work. So we always feel like okay, it is extracurricular activity. No, it is not the case here. You need to make some improvement actually. It is a part of our work. Okay, so day to day work. So maybe say for a simple thing is like you are working on some software development. Okay, say it's a file processing software. Just for an example, even that file processing software, some improvement you need to identify. You need to apply that actually into that software. And next time, say for example, till now that software has taken 5 minutes or 2 to 3 minutes to process completely all the files and give you the data. Maybe after your improvement, at least 2 to 3 minutes would be reduced, and that is the outcome of the innovation or improvement. So at least a small improvement is necessary, and it is the goal expected from every employee in the R&D organizations. Okay. So this is what the working culture, and so we would be even in my company also. So we would be working on the regular projects, but at the same time, so say in a month, monthly twice or thrice or something like that, we will be having some activities some improvements on the process or in the product. something, say we would be discussing, brainstorming. We need to brainstorm on that actually. So and then come to a conclusion. Maybe it will not happen in a single session, but it will need you some couple of sessions, or maybe 10 to 15 sessions, but that is okay. Just the outcome, the expectation is that some improvement we should be doing as part of our work. So this is the work culture in R&D organizations. Okay, so and whatever you do, that should be adding value to the business, which means that there should be some benefits for the company in terms of revenue and in terms of gaining the number of customers, something like that. So whatever adding value to the values to this business is or encouraged. In my company also, there are two things. You can also file a patent and keep innovating, and also other things like process improvement, and whatever is the current project. In that project, you wanted to make some improvements technically, that is also invited. For that also separate separate department is there, and for patents also separate department is there, and it is the case in all the R&D organizations, because in Honeywell also it is the case. And I had in Boeing, I know some guys in Boeing also, they are also this is the situation. So this the people are, and these companies are actually keeping that, adapting that as one part of the work. Okay, so this is what the working culture of the R&D. Okay. So yeah, you see, here is the list of companies investing this much amount of money in innovation, and doing research and trying to find something new. See, Amazon is investing 22 billion, almost $22 billion. Volkswagen, $15.8 billion. Samsung, well-known mobile company, it is investing $15.3 billion. So it is just few examples for you. They are actually really considering this R&D or innovation as an important factor to grow and to sustain in the industry and to survive with the other competitors. So this is why the R&D is required. The R&D, why it is required? It is required just because we need to sustain. And so to sustain, we need to do something new. We need to do the same thing better than others. So this is why all this came into picture. And so organizations are understanding the need of the R&D, and that is why they are investing so much money into it. Okay, just for an example. And now, just how to prepare ourselves to work in such organizations. It's usual. It's not much to do. The regular work, just academics. Yeah, we completed our academics, good, and we scored very good marks. And now, so we got some offers, and maybe we placed in some very good companies also. And so in those companies, we have to survive. So how to survive, how to betterment ourselves, or maybe later you wanted to move to some R&D organizations. So how to do that? So this is like simple things like in-depth understanding whatever you are doing. Maybe be it a domain, be it a technology. So why I talk about domain? There's the term called domain. It's nothing but a domain is nothing but if you are working on banking software, then you are working on the banking domain. If you are working on the aerospace software, then you are working on the aerospace domain. So I'm just telling you what it is. Okay, so in terms of domain or in terms of technology, so in-depth understanding must be there, and we need to keep updating ourselves. Okay, just for a very simple example I wanted to give, that is why I have given this C++ example here. So it just keep growing, updates are coming. C++ 11, you all would be knowing there was no smart pointer in C++ before C++ 11, and after that it is there. And C++ 17 also, they introduced something new and They are extending the support of C++ in various places, and by that, even now C++ is running, is being used. It is being used by a lot of organizations, mainly in embedded systems and real-time softwares. In all the so these applications, real-time software applications and embedded applications, are using C++ most widely. So that is because of the support they are giving till now through the different and incremental versions. So whenever they release something new, we also need to study and understand and keep ourselves up to date, so that we'll be able to work on the latest technologies or latest upcoming innovative product. So tomorrow your name will be in that upcoming product history. You can feel proud that you have been part of that product. Okay, so this is the one point, and another point would be it's we should be having a tendency to change the technologies. Not okay if I work in C sharp .NET. Oh no, I work only in .NET. No, sometimes you might need to work in other technologies also. Okay, so product companies always do this. Maybe in service company, if you started your career with Java or .NET, you will travel till the end, maybe with that, and very later point of time, you would be switching to some other technologies. But in product companies, it will happen. Almost to 30 to 40% it will happen. Okay, if maybe you would have started with .NET, sometimes you need to code in C also. Sometimes you need to code in C++ also. Sometimes you need to touch upon some Java stuff or UI stuff. Okay, so something like that you would have to do. So you should not be thinking that okay, I know only .NET, so I should not be working on this, and only this is my work area. No, that tendency should be changing. Okay, because so only then you would get an opportunity to work with a lot of products, and in the same product itself, various areas you would get opportunity to explore it. Okay, so this is why I'm seeing tendency to adapt or change. Okay, and that is one thing. So you need to you need to think like we are work for the complete product, not just for your module. So you are assigned with one particular module, and only that is your main concentration. Yes, you developed it, you delivered it. Yeah, that is fine. But and another module, some other colleague is working on it. Maybe he's struggling with some bug or some performance issue. You need to help also. You need to help them also, because it is like working together, collaboratively. So that collaborative culture should be there, and that will come only when you think the complete product is my work, my job. Yes, okay, so that is the main thing you need to consider. You need to be having it, and cultivating the habit of innovation and filing the patents and all. So innovation and patents, yeah, you can do. Even it's not that if you are finally a student, first time you entered into the company, you cannot do. It is not like that. And only filing the patents is not called as innovation. Doing some improvement in the existing product, that is also called as innovation. So some improvements, something you should be doing, you should keep doing it. So that only that will make sure that you will be surviving continuously in the organization or in R&D organization. Okay. So just it is not completely relevant to our topic, but little bit relevant, because of course at the end of the day we are developers, so we need to survive in the industry, right? We need to be a better coder. So that is why some thoughts on it. So we should be to survive and to survive and to achieve in the R&D organization or in any organization, the main focus actually. So developer always thinks that okay, I know C# very well, then yeah, I will develop the software completely in C#, will finish it. If you think that the expectation, the reality would be different, because organization will decide the technology also sometimes, and their decision factor would be different. Maybe cost or number of resources available, or or the performance, something like that. So, just not sticking to the technology. Technology, yes, you need to stick 80%, that will play the role, but mainly you need to concentrate the algorithms we develop. Okay, so business logic, whatever we are writing, that is the key factor. You can just port that algorithm to any language. But what is the heart actually? Heart of it is an algorithm. For any software, heart is algorithm, right? So this algorithm should be consistent and more stable. It should be better performing, and it should be available all the time. It should be handling all types of issues like a crash, or some unexpected behavior, things like that. So it should be well-designed code. Well-designed code in the sense, so your code should not be, what to say, should not break anywhere. It should run always. It may be some erroneous situations occurring, that is inevitable, but you need to handle it something like that, like, okay, some unknown situation where software cannot react. So you need to display some message to the user. Okay, this currently cannot be handled, and log the situation and send the feedback to the developer. Then later on analyze the bug and fix it. It should not be that, okay, if unknown situation happens, okay, the system is crashing completely and it will not respond further to any types of action performed by user. This should not be the case. Okay, it is on the perspective of complete product I'm talking. Yeah. So, and you also should be you also should be doing the testing. Should be testing your software, like a developer does a testing, unit testing. You might be knowing all the developers performs at least unit testing minimum level, and sometimes you may need to perform integrate what to say, user acceptance testing. Like, you will just check whether for what you have implemented the feature, like extracting the list of contacts from the phone. If that is your feature, that is your target of your feature, then you will check whether all the information extracted or not. Just an example I'm saying. So this is like a kind of testing. It is like acceptance testing. Okay, and focusing on the performance. Performance is like, it should not take minutes. It's delay in software actually. So it should be happening everything in milliseconds, sometimes seconds. So for smartphone integration and all, there is common rules set up by the manufacturer, like Apple and all, set up a rule like within 1 second the communication establishment should have happened with another device or head unit. Okay, so this is the one of the rules actually, criteria, we can say, precondition to talk to the smartphone via their technology CarPlay. So likewise, the performance should be better. So to achieve that, otherwise no. So if you take time to process the handshake signals and certificates, and then if you acknowledge later more than a second, then 1 to 3 seconds is okay. More than that means it will time out. You cannot establish the session. So things like that. This is one, and another one is see, in every model you need to think of a performance, like wherever the design patterns are actually well known, well known design actually, which is successful design now. Okay, so known design patterns you can apply wherever it is optimal and preferable. If it is not needed, you don't have to. For a small things and all, you don't need to apply design pattern. For significant things like a complex application, yeah, you need to deploy a design pattern. You may have to maintain a state machine, things like that, and you need to choose better architecture for the system. So the thing, it is actually, if you talk on this topic, it will go further a lot, and we'll have to go into complete academics we have studied till now in our 4-year tenure. So yeah, it's just a high-level overview for you. This is how to be a better coder or developer in R&D organization, and the focus is on the focus for the developer, all these things are required, very much required in R&D organization compared to other organizations. Sometimes in other organizations we might not be doing some complex work, but in R&D organizations most of the time we would be doing that. But thing is that by learning and adapting, you can do it continuously, and it will not make you feel it is a difficult task I'm doing. By time goes, you will also habituate to that. You'll also habituate, yeah. So that's it. Yeah, I'm almost done with my presentation, but you can ask me any queries if you have.
Students, regarding the like how to become a good programmer, to get into R&D, whatever the doubts you are having, you can interact with Mr. Bobalakrishnan. He is your senior, so don't hesitate, because the audience is a very minimal audience. So you are all much interested audience, so that you can interact with him. Don't hesitate, because I am having so many doubts. But if I am asking some doubts, students, you may not get the chance. So that I am giving the priority to the students. You can ask your doubts.
Sir, I have a doubt, sir. Can I ask it?
Yes, proceed.
So, what is the first most step to get into R&D, sir? What should I do at present so that I can develop my skills in R&D?
Sorry, some background noise. Can you please repeat?
So, what is my first most step so that I could develop myself in R&D?
Okay. So first most step. Okay. What to say? Opportunity is available. Opportunity is different always, right? So now you might get opportunity to work with some other company like TCS or Zoho or some companies. Even Zoho is doing R&D. Okay, even TC is also having some R&D section. It is not, you don't think actually like I have to go to a particular or specific R&D organization. Whatever you got, if that is a very good company, and that company would have some R&D section, definitely you have to try yourself, put your efforts to work on that particular thing. So not everybody will get the opportunity to work on such projects. Okay. In Honeywell also some specific R&D section also there, relevant to flight management systems and all. Everybody in the Honeywell will not get opportunity to work on that. Okay, so it is once you get into the company, you should understand the system, understand the company organization structure, project structures, and then try to choose one particular item. Maybe, okay, now I wanted to become R&D engineer in this company itself. Then you list out what are all the technologies, what are all the domain barriers I have and I should fulfill. You study that. You cultivate some habits of being agile towards R&D, and then you will definitely get into that R&D sector. First, get into the R&D sector of your company, and then you choose the R&D company. Then your target will never miss.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Sir, there's a question in the chat box. Can I read it for you?
Yeah, please.
Which means I like to work on many technologies and languages. Is it a good trait to get into R&D, sir?
Just a second. Let me. It's in message, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I will also. Yeah. Basically, I'm a generalist and not a specialist, which means I like to work with many technologies and languages. Try to get. It is possible, but you need to have in-depth understanding at least in one or two main areas. It is not like everything mixture. Say for example, say you are a .NET expert. Okay, if you are a .NET expert and then you know a little bit about Java, C++, then yeah, good. But in all the languages, if you know the basic level or intermediate level, then it is not a good idea, or it is not the expectation. Okay, so yeah, another colleague, another student is asking like a specific reason to go with C++. No, no, no. It is not just C++. R&D have all the other programming languages also. I was talking about that specific example. .NET is also there. Java is also there. Python is also there. Nowadays, everybody talks about Python. That is also there. So you must have an in-depth understanding of at least one or two, and then you can have additional things. That is fine. Without an in-depth understanding, at least have on one topic, it is not possible. I feel so. Am I answering correctly? Did you get the answer?
Yes, Mr. Balakrishnan.
Yeah.
Thank you. Students, any more questions you're having?
Sir, should I take over, sir?
Yes, Varsha. Because they are not, maybe like the time is 4:30, so they are not ready to ask more questions in Subbu Balakrishnan.
That's okay, sir.
They are in log of mood, even though they are in home. By after 4:30, they came to log of mood, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Thank you so much, sir, for your patience in answering all our queries. I request Dr. Karthikeyan, sir, for a virtual honor.
Mr. Balakrishnan, can you please
Yes, sir.
stop sharing your screen for just a minute, please?
Sure. Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, done.
Yes, Varsha, so can you please share the certificate?
Yes, sir, I'll share it, sir.
Yes. Balakrishnan, since
Yes.
we are in the pandemic situation, so we are able to virtually honor you. We are
Thank you, sir.
virtually honoring all our alumni
Okay,
with one e-appreciation certificate.
Okay, sir.
So
Thank you.
Thank you for your valuable time. You have shared a lot of useful inputs regarding the R&D, maybe in various domains. What are the companies are involved in R&D? How much they are investing regarding the R&D? How the student is to be getting ready for R&D? Like that, you have shared a lot of useful inputs. But even though the strength is minimal, so definitely I believe this minimal strength of people, they are very much interested in R&D. So in future, we are able to see some of the R&D engineers like you, Mr. Balakrishnan, in this crowd. So thank you very much for your most valuable session. So we will send you the mail regarding this e-certificate. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Balakrishnan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And also, hi all students. Thanks a lot for bearing me for 1.5 hours. Okay. Yeah. Hope you got some useful information from me. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Students, I will share the feedback link. In the chat box. If anybody you are interested to give oral feedback, you are most welcome.
Yeah.
If you are in log of mood, you can fill the feedback in the link. Or if anybody is really interested to share the feedback with you directly in online, you can share your feedback. If anybody is interested to give the feedback, you are most welcome, because your senior is waiting for your most valuable feedback.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yes. Yes, Varsha?
Sir, good evening, sir. Actually, first, when I was attending this webinar, I had no idea about research and development, and I don't know what. I was very eager to see what was in the webinar, what will be we are going to talk. And after attending this webinar, I was so immense happy so that I could gain a lot of knowledge from you, sir.
Thank you.
I can guess what is R&D and what can I do further to develop my skills in R&D, sir. Thank you so much, sir. It's my pleasure to
Thank
attend this
you.
webinar, sir.
Yeah, I'm happy that you got some useful information, and if it is helping you in your career, I would be very happy. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Varsha?
Sir, can I proceed now?
Varsha, go ahead. Yes,
Yes,
go
sir.
ahead.
Thank you so much, sir. I immensely share my love and gratitude on behalf of our students and department to our resource person for his time and patience in sharing his knowledge. I feel grateful to be a part in this webinar. It's my privilege in hosting this entire session. Finally, to express the gratitude, I call upon Ms. Sri to deliver vote of thanks. Handing over to Sri Shishka.
Good evening, everyone. It's my privilege to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of Computer Science Department of PSNA College of Engineering and Technology to all the pillars who made this wonderful event a great success. First of all, I would like to start by expressing my gratitude to our Reverend Resource Person, Mr. Bhupala Krishnan S., for his patience and time. Sir, you gave a clear insight about scope of CSC in R&D industries. The information you shared was very useful to us. Definitely, this session was an eye-opener for most of us. All your thoughts and deeds made us think wider. Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to thank all the esteemed delegates of the event for their presence and contribution to make this event a grand success. Next, I would like to thank our respected chairperson, Tirumadi K. Dhanalakshmi ma'am, and our pro-chairperson, Rotarian R.S.K. Raghuram sir, for the opportunity and encouragement to conduct this event. Next, I record my sincere thanks to our respected principal, Dr. T. Vasudevan sir, for the support and guidance to conduct this event. Thank you, sir. And I must mention a deep sense gratitude to our beloved head of department, Dr. D. Shanti ma'am, and our coordinator, Dr. R. Karthikeyan sir, Professor Department of CSE, who stood as the backbone of the event and organized it in a great manner. I extend my gratitude to our staff members. At last but not least, I thank all the participants, students, and the gathering for their active participation in this research seminar. Once again, thank you everyone for making this event a grand success. Thank you all.
Thanks, all
Thank
of you.
you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Bhupala Krishnan. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, bye, sir.
Thank
We'll
you.
be
See
in
you.
touch.
See you.
Yeah.
We'll be in touch. Thank you,
Okay,
my
sir.
dear students, especially the hosting team for wonderful hosting of this event. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm logging off. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.